Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Kris Kloss, and I want to welcome everybody to this episode of Xtreme Memories. Reminder, the Wrestling Chatter YouTube channel, like, share, comment, and subscribe. You're going to help us out quite a bit if you subscribe to this channel. The more subscribers we get, the more great content we can bring to you. Speaking of content, this is a good one. Very special guest. This guy does not grant too many interviews. A personal favorite to me. My pal, the legendary, the Necro Butcher. We talked to him about, of course, his first run in XPW, the second incarnation back in 2008, Cold Day in Hell. The iconic, now legendary match between himself and the late great Supreme, who main evented that night in Redondo Beach, California. Fast forward all the way to now. The new unfolding of XPW, current day. He was in the 2022 XPW King of the Deathmatch tournament. We talk all about that, where he broke his ankle. Legit. We'll talk all about that. We go into The Wrestler with Mickey Rourke. Oscar-nominated, Oscar-winning film. Of course, all that he's done in professional wrestling. And, of course, in XPW past, present, and future. Once again, this is a rare one, folks. Necro Butcher, he doesn't grant too many interviews. Well, he did it for Xtreme Memories. He did it for you, so you enjoy. All right, fans, Kris Kloss here, another episode of Xtreme Memories. And man, if you want to talk about extreme, you got to be talking about this guy right here. My guest on this edition of Xtreme Memories, he is the legendary, worldwide synonymous, the one and only Necro Butcher, hardcore wrestling icon. Sir, welcome to Xtreme Memories.
This is my first attempt at a video chat ever.
Well, that is our honor for sure to have you on as your first time ever.
I usually make up excuses why I can't do it, but I thought I'd give it a shot.
Hey, thank you so much. And I appreciate you doing this too, because I know, like you said, you don't do too many of these. So can you tell the fans briefly, Necro, about your journey into professional wrestling, how you got started, when you knew you wanted to be a part of this industry?
Tape trading.
Okay.
I was in the 90s, the early 90s. And I was in the Army at the time, and this was before direct TV or Dish Network, where if you had a satellite TV, that was this big thing in your yard that rotated, and I could watch Memphis wrestling, Smoky Mountain wrestling. There was like 9 hours of Lucha Libre on a week. So I just started recording this stuff, and before I knew it, I had a pretty big library. Wow. And then I got to trading tapes with Japan, and I was getting weekly All Japan, New Japan TV, trading them a lot. And I began selling tapes to some guys that were training at the Sportatorium. And they were obviously trying to get Japanese stuff to steal the moves, but I was just happy. And then, through the course of correspondence, a minor friendship develops, after repeated emails and phone calls and whatnot. And then one day they just told me to come to the Sportatorium and try out. And wrestling was a lot different back then. Nowadays you pay a little bit of money every week and they baby you because they want to keep that money coming in.
Yeah.
And then you got guys, just because you went to wrestling practice, for 3 months or whatever, that doesn't make you a wrestler. Back then it was, you had to pay a whole bunch of money up front, and then they beat you up because they already had your money. So they didn't need you anymore. They already had all your money. But then that went on, and I was in the Army at the time. That was pretty decent money for West Virginia boy. The Army was pretty decent money. So I wasn't really too dead set on this thing working out, but I thought it'd be pretty cool to go to the sportatorium with real wrestlers in a real wrestling ring. And sure, they're going to beat me up. I knew that. But whatever, I'll go do it and I can say I did it. And I gave them the money, and it was a lot. And they did beat me up, and it was pretty bad. But at the end of it, they said, "Are you coming back next week?" And I was blown back by that. I didn't think that was even an option. I thought the reason for this beating was to ensure that I did not return. But I said, sure, yeah, you know what? I'll come back. And my mindset at the time was, I'm just going to keep coming back until they tell me to stop coming back. Then here we are, 25, 26 years later. They haven't told me not to quit yet. Well, some people have, but still here.
Yeah. So that's very fascinating, Necro. I didn't know about your history with the Sportatorium. Pretty fascinating. So when did you develop your love, your admiration for the hardcore extreme style of wrestling?
It wasn't initial at all. I've been wrestling in Texas for a few years, and the best place to get money because they had the big houses was in Houston. The best place to get exposure because they had weekly TV was Dallas. And after a few years, I was main eventing shows in Houston and Dallas. And I thought, well, is this it? Well, what happens? Where can I go from here? Yeah. So I tried to look at some places where I could send some tapes. Nowadays you can just send somebody a link and they can watch your match. But it used to be you'd send them a VHS tape with what you thought were your 3 best matches, an 8x10 photo with your contact info on the back. Yeah. And I sent a few of those out, and a lot of people never got back to me. Some people did, and the one that IWA Mid-South told me, we would use you on every show, but we can't afford to bring you in from Texas. I said, wait, you'll use me on every show? I'll be there next week. So I packed up my shit in my truck and drove to Louisville. And I was starting out at the bottom, always losing first or second match, never making any money. Well, enough to eat, but that's about it. Yeah. But I would see the upper card, the main event matches were what people would call like the extreme style, I guess. Yeah. So it wasn't that I went there to do that, but that's where I was, and that's where the main event was. That's where the money was. So I was trying to elevate myself in the place where I was.
Okay. So that was going into, from Texas to Kentucky. And then, from there, like you said, you got all the exposure.
Yeah, that was the outside of Texas. Yeah, that was the first. No, but then the first place I ever really got a push outside of Louisville was the first place to use me, but they didn't really push me. But then I started getting a push in Detroit. So when Detroit started pushing me, everybody started pushing me, and that's when people said, "Hey, give this guy the ball," But it really started in Detroit is where it really started for me. It really started to come together.
Okay, interesting. So now let's fast forward. You're in CZW. This is where you kind of get your big major exposure. Would you say correct? Your first.
Yeah, they had a pretty big deal with VHSs before DVDs. Yeah. They had a pretty good distribution system going all over the country, all over the world with their VHSs. So things really it was a good place for me to go.
So now, now we're going to get into XPW, of course. When CZW, what was the reaction? Well, first off, what was the buzz on the East Coast, if you recall, of XPW, if there was any out there that you remember when it was just kind of starting up.
Well, the CZW fan base, uh, not only was CZW had a pretty good distribution deal with getting their product out there, but their fans were also uh, their fans bought everything. The fans in Philly were they knew who everybody was before you got there. They knew about the Midwest, they knew about the West Coast, they knew about Japan. Because of not only the were the tapes coming from there, but they were all buying tapes there too. So the fans there knew who you were by the time you got there.
Yeah. What was the reaction, if you remember, of the CZW locker room when XPW started booking at the old Viking Hall, the ECW arena? Do you remember the vibe going on there? That's getting later into.
Well, there were a few companies also that did try to do that.
Yeah.
It was very they're very territorial about it. Territorial about it. It was not just the fans but the wrestlers also. It wasn't an easy thing to do by any means. It was not an easy thing to do.
Now, what was the reaction? Because a lot of companies were going into Viking Hall, going into the old ECW arena. But what happened? Do you remember the reaction once Rob Black? Because if you remember, Rob Black actually ended up purchasing the building, so he was exclusive to it. Do you remember if there was any like what the reaction was to that? If you remember.
Well, I wasn't really. I was kind of always viewed as an outsider there anyway, so I wasn't really I wasn't really too political about that stuff. You know what I'm saying? I was just trying to, at the time, I was trying to take care of my kids. That's really, I was just trying to stay busy and keep working and keep the money rolling in. I mean, if there was any of that stuff going on, I really don't know about it. I know some guys went back and forth. I tried to get along with everybody because I didn't feel like I belonged anywhere anyway. So I didn't really pick up on that too much.
Okay. Was there do you remember, Necro, was there any attempts to work for you to work in XPW from its original stint from 99 to 2003? Like, were there any talks with you and Kevin Kleinrock, you and Rob Black?
No, I mean, I did that one thing for him there later on.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a sec.
There was no communication either way. I didn't contact anybody. Like I said, I was just trying to stay busy. If I was busy, I never tried to talk to them. They didn't try to talk to me. So nothing.
Okay.
There was nothing there.
Okay. Did you going a little bit back, just kind of curious, were you as a kid, I know you said you got into wrestling via the tape trading, but was wrestling something that you kind of gravitated to as a little kid, that you kind of like you a lot of guys in the business kind of have a recurring theme where, hey, when I was real little, I just got this, I understood it and I loved it.
Oh, I didn't understand it. I loved it, but I didn't understand it.
Yeah, okay.
See, back then wrestling was on Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah.
That's it. Nowadays there's wrestling on every night. There's 2 or 3 shows a night on somewhere. But back then it was different. And my parents had gotten divorced, and we were with my dad on the weekends. So I don't think my dad really gave a shit about wrestling. But like, hey boys, wrestling's on, because we were with him, so I would watch wrestling with him. And then after he passed away, his mother, which would be my grandmother, tried to pick up the slack as far as hanging out with us on the weekends. And she took me to my first live wrestling event, which I was blown away. I didn't think that was even a thing. You could go see wrestling live in West Virginia. I didn't think that was even, like I say, now there's crappy wrestling on every street corner now, everywhere. But it was a lot different then. We could go, it was 2 hours to Wheeling, West Virginia. And when you're a kid, 2 hours is like a day and a half in a car. We would go see the Jim Crockett Promotions at the Wheeling Civic Center.
Wow.
So I got to see some really good matches as a kid. Um, still to this day, the best match I've ever saw in my life. I saw the Rock and Roll Express against Ivan and Crusher in a double Russian chain match, and it was just nuts. There was nothing like that on TV. I saw a Magnum and Nikita in a chain match. A lot. I was really lucky to see a lot of the all-time greats when I was a kid.
Man, and also it felt more big time. Like you said, there's a crappy wrestling show on every corner
Yeah,
now, but
it,
back then there were only select few here and there,
right.
and when they were out, it just felt more big time than it
No,
does now.
and they damn sure didn't come out and sit at a table during intermission where you could go talk to them. If
Yep.
you wanted to see one of the wrestlers, you have to come real early and and maybe wait for him to drive up. Not go talk to him, not go take a picture with him, but just to see him, to see him not in the ring. It was a big deal just to see him. There
Yeah.
wasn't like nowadays they have the table set up with their DVDs and they're selling their pants and all kind of stuff. It was I remember it was a big deal just to watch them pull up and get out of the car. Who's that?
Yeah.
I remember once because we would like to go early, to see them drive up, and we went and saw the Great American Bash one year back when the Great American Bash used to be a tour. It
Yeah.
was a whole month long. It wasn't just one show; it was a whole month. That'd go all over the place. And we saw a limousine pull up, and we thought, "Damn, that has to be the Nature Boy." Who else? Who else roll up in a limousine? Out of the limousine was Buddy Landell, and he had no shirt, no shoes, no gear bag, just cut off Daisy Dukes. He got out, cut off Daisy Dukes' sunglasses, and he walked into their building like that, then backstage, back door, just with no gears, cut off Daisy Dukes, no sunglasses, no. I guess someone else had his bag. I don't know.
Well,
but
you were correct. It was the Nature Boy.
Yeah, well, yeah. Yeah, like a Miata or something. I don't remember.
Right.
It was a little rental car.
Yeah. Wow,
It
man.
was a
So
big deal
yeah,
just to see him. Just to see him
yeah,
was a big deal.
yeah.
Who you'd never had the balls to ask him for a picture. Hell, they might slap you.
Yeah, right.
That's
That was the mindset because
Yeah,
everybody believed like whatever was going on, you're going to set them off because what you just saw was
those are
real.
rough, tough customers, man. They're wrestlers. They're
Yeah,
tough.
yeah, and again, the mindset of the fans back then were engulfed in the in the story quite more because of kayfabe, and so these guys seemed a little bit even more bigger than life back then, in my opinion.
Right.
Yeah. Um, well, Necro, I want to ask you also. You brought up moving back into the XPW. Who got in contact with you to be a part of the big XPW reunion show, which was a little while ago now? Hard to believe, but almost 15 years ago. It was back in 2008, and
Right.
it was XPW's Cold Day in Hell, and that was held in Southern California. Excuse me, Redondo Beach, California, and it was produced by Big Vision Entertainment, which was the company that produced the Wrestling Society X and all those other DVDs and whatnot. But so they owned the rights at the time to XPW, and the show was a pretty big hit. It was critically uh, approved, I would say, in the world of a wrestling critics, And part of the reason was the main event. It was yourself, and it was the late great, rest in peace, Supreme, who's
Mm-hmm.
not with us anymore, of course. Shout out to his family, and but that match, when that came about, who got in contact with you to be a part of that?
I believe it was Keith Lipinski.
Oh, okay, Keith.
I
Yeah.
believe because uh, the show was announced.
Mhm.
Some matches were booked. I had no contact with anyone, and I believe he posted an ad on my MySpace page promoting the show. And I was actually on another show in Detroit that day, and I just messaged him, not knowing who he was. I said, "Hey, you're advertising this show, and not only am I not on this show, but I'm somewhere else. What's going on? What's with that?" And it wasn't even it was by no means a booking inquiry. It was just, "Hey, what's going on? Why are you advertising this show on my MySpace page that I'm not even on?"
Hmm.
And he said, "Give me a few days, I'll send you an offer." What? So a few days later, a contract came in the mail, like a real legitimate looking thing. And that was the first time I ever got $1,000 for a match.
Oh,
The
wow.
XPW was the first time I ever got $1,000. So when I got out to California, I was pretty damn motivated to work hard. I wanted to show everybody that I was worth that $1,000.
That's right, man. And you did. It was a very impressive outing, man. And that's very interesting. And yeah, Big Vision Entertainment, they were very good about that. I will say firsthand, they treated people well, they treated
Yeah.
people fairly, and they gave people what their value was, I believe.
I wasn't even trying to get booked.
Yeah, right,
Here comes
man.
$1,000 contract in the mail.
I bet you when that idea surfaced, you probably put some light bulbs on in people's heads, because really, I mean, arguably at the time, it was a big deal to have you, kind of the king of hardcore on the East Coast at the time, taking on the king of hardcore on the West Coast at the time.
Yeah, place was sold out.
Yeah,
Great
yeah.
house, great money. Everything was great.
And I know that the DVDs did very well over in Japan because of that. They did well in the UK because of that, in Australia. And there's a few other places, but I mean, I remember when I was working at Big Vision, that was the main reason, was the main event, you and Supreme. And I think we knew what a big deal it was, booking it. And it's just, okay, East versus West. But then when it was over, and then we got all these responses, I go, boy, we knew it was big, but wow, there's so much folklore around you and around Supreme, and this was like the one and only time you guys got together.
Yeah.
And it was produced and it wasn't just an indie show; it was produced very on a large scale, a big time feel, and that ended up kind of organically. Now that you're telling me this part of the story, that you just happened to see something on your MySpace, now it just kind of unfolds in my mind like it was all meant to be, in a way.
Hey, it was. It's a lot of bizarre coincidences over the years, and that's just one of many.
Yeah, big time right there. And again, this was one of those matches where it was like two giants, two superheroes going at it. How was that for you? And were you and Supreme close at all before that match? And did you guys know extensively about each other's careers?
We had been a tour of Japan together, but I can't remember what was first. So I can't. I don't remember the timeline too well. It's been a real long time ago.
If fans out there, if you know the answer to that, because I'm sure there are Necro fans out there that know the answer to this.
Maybe XPW was first. I think XPW was first. So I think didn't he do one of those Gathering of the Juggalo events?
I think he did, yeah, but I don't think that was. I don't know if it was before.
I didn't really. I think that might have been maybe 2001.
Oh,
I don't know.
That was when. That was back when the Juggalos were in XPW.
Yeah. I might have been able to chat with him briefly at the ICP event, but those things are so hectic, so we didn't really have much. now that I think about it, I think the ICP event was first. Then years later was XPW.
Okay.
Then years later was Japan. I think.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't know.
Well, I just remember Cold Day in Hell. It was like, I want to say we built it, and we were talking, and the whole consensus was, okay, this is the first time these two have ever met, you know. And then you got to think, we again, if I'm incorrect and someone knows, you know, drop that down in the comment section. But on a large scale, this was, and in America at least, for sure, we know this is the first time you guys ever fought in the ring, and it was a no rope. It was a no rope barbed wire match,
Oh, it was
right?
great, man. They produced the hell out of it. It was
Yeah.
great. It was great. Great first
Yeah.
class experience the whole way. First class.
Awesome, man. And how was it being in the ring with Supreme?
Well, just that was just part of what made it also first class.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Great opponent. You know, everybody knew him. He was tremendously over. You know, and that just makes everything so much better. You know, when you're the crowd. You know, when the crowd loves your opponent like that, it makes everything so much easier and so much better.
And fans, that full match, that full show, Cold Day in Hell, is available, thankfully, on YouTube.
Oh,
It's
okay.
on YouTube for free. So
I thought you were trying to sell it.
no, thankfully that whole thing is out on YouTube. It's not my channel. I'm just letting people know that if you want to see that match, to pay tribute to not only Supreme but yourself in that performance, please, fans, check that out. It's well worth it. It is
That was
really
a war. It was a fucking war.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like you said, you turned it up a notch. Now we know part of that reason is because Big Vision, took care of you. And, honored what your value truly is, man. And that's good tributes to Houston Curtis, Kevin Kleinrock, for that. Why do you remember, Necro? Why? Because there was the Cold Day in Hell, and then there was the XPW 10-year reunion a year later. You never got the phone call for that, or what happened? No.
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay. I think they kept more of that on a local level because the budget was lower, because this was after the crash of '08. And I don't know if you're familiar with this, but Cold Day in Hell was in May of '08, right before the crash, the economic crash. And that was the test pilot for, we were going to do monthly pay-per-views, XPW at the time, but the crash basically stopped that from happening. So it never happened, but that was the kind of the last hurrah until now, this next comeback for XPW. But let's talk about that, the current XPW, and talk a little bit about taking part in the new XPW and the 2022 XPW King of the Deathmatch tournament. I mean, man, you're in front of a whole new generation of fans now, man. You've gone and performed in front of so many different generations now.
True. And I had been out for a few years too. I had gotten real sick, stage 3 Hodgkins Lymphoma. I was down to 160. You know, it looked like curtains, man. And then I just started getting better. I didn't really question why I got sick, but I questioned why I got better. And then just the opportunity presented itself, and you know, I was feeling pretty good. And I think I had one match in maybe 3 years before that, and it was the month before. it wasn't even much, you know. And I had not had a good match in maybe 6 or 7 years.
Oh wow!
Because I'd started to get sick and just been in denial and getting weaker and smaller and weaker and smaller. Then, you know, and I was at one point I was in a hospital bed for 8 months. I think 8 months in a hospital bed. Yeah, it's crazy, man. And then and part of me thought, man, I'm not ready for this. I'm not ready to go out there and perform on a big stage. But then I thought, well, you know what? If I go out there and make a good account of myself, maybe something will come of it.
Yeah.
That was I said, well, it's just too big of an opportunity to pass up. If I can get in this tournament, not based on what I've done lately, but what I've done overall, then I want to give it a shot. And if I go out there and fall on my face and get slaughtered, well, so be it. That'll answer all the questions. But when I started to get healthier, I thought, well, what if? What if I gave it a shot? Finally, being healthy after all these years, just try out there and give a good account of myself. And I think, all things considered, with an opponent that was probably 20 years younger than me,
Yeah.
having the big layoff that I did, and on the clothesline or the top rope, I broke my ankle.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
This was the first first.
I couldn't even stand up.
Okay.
Halfway through that match, I was done walking. I was walking on willpower.
Oh, that's right. Wow.
Yeah. But then again, what can I do?
And that was against Big F and Joe?
No, that was the second match.
Second match, okay.
Yeah, I could barely stand up in that second match.
And so the second match is when you did the ankle.
No, I broke my ankle in the first match.
Oh, against what was the opponent again? Do you remember?
Hoodfoot from Chicago.
That's right, Hoodfoot. Okay, yeah.
Chicago boy.
Wow. So when he came out the top rope, okay.
No, he closed on me with the top rope.
He closed on you, right? He closed on you with the top rope.
My feet hit awkwardly.
Wow. Well,
it's still fucked up.
Yeah, you kind of kayfabe that, So,
well, man, I got I've broken a lot of bones, and this is not correct advice, but when I was younger and I was taking care of my family, you can't wrestle with a cast on. So I just never got into the whole cast thing. I mean, I've spent weeks at a time crawling through my house. Not lately, but years ago, I used to crawl. Not even able to stand up to pissing on my knees, aiming it up, trying to aim it up over the bowl from your knees because I couldn't stand up. That's just that was my job. I didn't do anything else but wrestle. So you get a cast on. People don't want to book you when you got a cast on, but you can put some athletic tape on there where you don't feel it and get to work. And that's just how the habit I got into. And I've had a couple matches since then with a broke ankle.
Wow, man.
I've had about 3 weeks off now though, but it's still all fucked up.
Wow. So well, at least you had some weeks off for some healing.
Yeah.
I mean, the more rest and the more healing time you get, the better.
Yeah.
What circa what year, Necro, did you develop your illness? You said Hodgkins lymphoma?
Well, I did. I think I was diagnosed in. I wasn't diagnosed until maybe 19 or 20, but I'd been sick for a while. I was on the grounds crew of a minor league baseball team. I think I started in 17. Yeah, 2017. I went to work at a grounds crew for a minor league baseball team, and I did that for a couple of years, and I just. It was killing me. I didn't have any energy, couldn't stand up. And then the third year, I think that was 19, maybe. I think, 19, they moved me to scanning tickets at the front gate.
Okay.
It was a very easy job. So I did that for a year. And then at the end of that year, I couldn't even do that anymore. I was too weak to even do that. This whole time, I'm losing weight. I'm lying and telling people I'm dieting, but I'm just rotting away. So I'm doing, So then in 2020, I told the general manager it was the Dayton Dragons in Dayton, Ohio. They're a Reds farm team. The fourth year, 2020, I told the general manager, I said, look, I can't do this anymore. I can't do anything.
Wow.
I'm just going to go home and hang out with my kids because this, something ain't right. Then, as fate would have it, the minor league schedule was canceled in 2020 anyway. There was no minor league baseball in 2020. So I resigned in February. I resigned from the team in February. Then a couple months later, they canceled the whole season.
So it's
timing. A funny coincidence.
Yeah. Another coincidence, right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then I think August, August of, I think August of 2020 is when I went into remission.
Okay.
So I think it was maybe February when I got my diagnosis. February of 20, I think.
Okay.
And there had been like a bunch of surgeries and stuff. They were digging stuff out of me. Funny story. I got this. I had this tattoo for a while. That's the cut here with the dotted
Oh
lines. And
yeah.
before I got my diagnosis, they had to take a tumor out that was behind my breastbone, and they said I was too. They were going to have to like break my ribs and all this shit, but I was so weak. They said we can't do it that way. We're gonna have to go into your neck, And when someone says they're going into your neck to get a tumor that's behind your breastbone,
Oh.
you don't always have your sense of humor about you. So I didn't think to tell them about this tattoo. So the first time I had real good doctors, man. I had real good doctors.
Okay.
But the first time the doctor saw this tattoo was in the prep room.
Oh
And
no.
he threw the marker down and started laughing. He said, "I think I can do it." I said, "What do you mean?" And I can't, I got real bad camera, but he cut me right there. He
Oh
stayed
my
on the
God.
line. He stayed on the line to dig something out that was clear below my breastbone. And it gets funnier. It gets funnier. Then about 3 months later, no, maybe a month and a half later, but a month and a half later, uh, I stopped. I wasn't able to use my right arm anymore.
Hmm.
And it turns out there was another one of these tumors putting pressure. You know how you like your clavicle bone goes together on your shoulder?
Yeah.
It was clear over there where your clavicle bone connects. And they had to dig this fucking thing out too. And same doctor. And he says, I think I can do it again. I said, what? and again, bad camera, but he cut me again right there to
Oh,
get something out that was clear
oh.
over here. And I said, "You're just showing off, aren't you?"
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
said, "I am." He said, "I am," but he said it's like a minefield where I know the location of the mines. That's what my surgeon
Yeah.
told me. That was Dr. Hansen was my
Okay.
thoracic surgeon. I hung out with him a few times.
Right on.
I had real good doctors, man. Real good doctors. They didn't give up on me. I'm real lucky.
Well, we're grateful for that as well, and all the fans here too, Necro man. That's awesome. And we've talked a lot about a lot of crazy coincidences. I don't think anything is more than cut here.
No,
So,
I got surgery on there twice
yeah,
after the
twice,
tattoo. The tattoo
twice.
was there. Tattoo was there before. I had surgery on those dotted lines twice after the tattoo. And
Unbelievable.
years after the tattoo.
Yeah, yeah.
But I
Well,
had real good doctors, man. That was in it's not the University Hospital in West Virginia, but it was what the hell was the name of that place? Oh God, I can't remember the name of it. But it was over there close to Morgantown. But it wasn't the University Hospital. But it was over there somewhere near Morgantown, West Virginia. That's where I
Doctor
went.
Han,
That's where I
Doctor
went for all my
Hanson.
chemo and
Okay.
bone marrow samples and all that shit. You know.
Yeah. Well,
But
man, I'm glad that you came out through it pretty unscathed, man.
yeah, just a few scars.
Yeah.
I have some neuropathy in my feet. They said that's never going to get better. That's where like your toes go numb and you don't feel them anymore.
What do you think that's from?
It's from the chemo.
Okay.
The chemo is poison.
Yeah.
It doesn't just kill the cancer; it
Right.
kills you too.
Right.
And
Right.
the longer you're on it, the more of you it kills.
That's
So
right.
like when I put my shoes on, sometimes I'll think there's rocks in my shoe,
Mm.
but there's not rocks. Those are my toes. I just can't.
Oh
but
wow,
I'm
man.
alive, so I'm not going to bitch about
That's
numb
right.
toes. Yeah.
Shout out to Dr. Hanson.
Yeah, Dr. Andrew Hansen. Yep, he was a good dude. I had some real good doctors. I remember when I was getting my bone marrow sample. It's like you lay on your belly. They get like a polar ice fishing drill, and they drill into your hip. And That was Dr. Osman was his name. But as he was drilling into my hip, we were having a discussion about how great the Road Warriors were. There'll never be another team like the Road Warriors, and
Wow.
it made it. We'd always talk old school wrestling whenever I
Yeah.
was seeing that he was my oncologist. I think oncologist is a cancer
Okay.
doctor. I
Yeah.
think he was my oncologist. Yeah, everybody, it was great, man. I mean, it was rough because that was the beginning of the pandemic. So
Yeah.
that's when you go to the waiting room and everybody there has cancer, you know, and you weren't allowed having like a visitor, somebody come with you. So it's just a room full of sick people, and then you're getting blood drawn, you're getting hooked up to machines, you're doing all this shit, and you don't want to talk to anybody because you don't know what their situation is. It's just kind of a depressing
Yeah.
thing, And then for the chemo, you're all hooked up. There's curtains separating you, but more or less every 6 feet is another person hooked up to a machine. You don't know how you're doing, how they're doing, and it was a tough thing, man. But that's all over with. That's all over with.
Yeah, that's awesome, Nick.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man. It's a blessing, man, and good tributes to you, man, for pulling through. And
Well, I just figured I beat cancer out of spite. So, so many people be so happy.
so you gotta, hey, Necro, you can't be wearing those shirts anymore that says "Choose Death." You
Oh,
did
I
that.
don't. I don't. I haven't. I haven't. I haven't. The match was slack.
I'm kidding, but that was just one of those things where you went against
Yeah.
your shirt.
Yeah. Yeah. No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, man, that's good stuff. And uh, so okay, when you talked about now the tournament, Killafornia, the big show, the return show to SoCal, XPW, and then of course there's one coming up, as everyone knows, on June 25th in Pomona to 2022. Um, was that the first? You said you had a long break. Was that Killafornia show? Was that the first only event that you came back to with the first one back from your hiatus?
I had a tune-up bout in Knoxville, Tennessee,
Okay, warm up. Yeah,
maybe 2 or 3 weeks before that.
got it.
But I was trying to get in the ring,
Right.
you know, just to do something. That would be the very first thing.
Yes.
It was
Right.
smaller show,
Yeah.
smaller audience, but I just wanted to do something before XPW, just something.
Right. Same here. I actually wanted to announce for some small show, and yeah, but anyway, what was I going to say? How long before Necro, before California, or the warm up show you had, that stint that you had off? How long was that?
Oh God, I had a oh, I think it was maybe the beginning of January of 19, maybe January of 19. I might have had a
Okay.
match with Slack, but I was real thin, real skinny, real sick,
Yeah.
you know. And I told him, I said, because I've known that kid since before he was a wrestler, And I said, look, if this was anybody else, I wouldn't fucking do it. Fuck this. I'm in
Yeah.
so much pain. I can't walk. I can't do anything. But I've seen them go from a little uh, musician fella to a main event wrestler.
Yeah.
So I said, look, I'll do this for you, and I'll bow out, and then I'll go off in a corner and die somewhere. This didn't work out like that. I got better.
Yeah.
But
Wow.
that was, I mean, I don't think I even had my diagnosis at that point either. Like there
That's
was a
yeah.
lot of, there was a lot of self-diagnosis going on. Well, with WebMD and all that, you can look up shit, and I was doing that, and I was thinking this, and I was thinking that, and of course, all the people, all the anti Dylan committee, and there's a bunch of them folks around. They all had their own theories about what was going on, and that was kind of depressing. When I was laying there dying to read those horrible things that even people that I knew, or thought I knew, were saying those things. But
Wow.
but one day I just decided, fuck it, I'm just going to live. So I did.
Good for you, man. Good for you. And that's like I said, good tributes to your will and your determination, man. And look, man, you've already proved it in so many other ways that the average man won't do. So I'm sure
No,
to some people it's no so it's to some people it's probably not to downplay and make light of that it was a hard road, but to some people it was no surprise that someone like you pulled through something like that.
it surprises me. It
Okay.
surprises
All
me.
right, man. I mean, yeah, like I said, it's unbelievable and a miracle that you're here, man. Um, and really
And
quick
that's
before,
something. And that's something that everybody needs to know. No matter what's going on in your life, whether it's health, your mental
yeah,
well-being, financial troubles,
yeah,
relationship troubles, whatever it is, you can get through it. It might not seem like it, but the
yeah,
key is just you got to keep breathing. If you keep breathing, anything's possible. Anything can be solved. Just you got to keep breathing. I remember that Tom Hanks movie, Castaway. Well, I can't
yeah,
remember the exact quote, but it was something like all he was trying to do was keep breathing because you never know what the tide will bring. And
yeah,
one day the tide brought him a boat. Well, one
yeah,
day the tide bought me a cure. So that you never know what the tide's going to bring in. You just got to keep breathing, and whatever it is, you can get through it as long as you're still breathing.
yeah, and I know this is a tough pill for some people to swallow, but things don't happen to you; they happen for you.
Yeah, I
You
agree.
know,
I agree.
they're trials, they're tribulations, they're challenges, not to you for you to be the victim of, but for you to face those challenges and come out of it bigger and better and stronger than you were
Well,
before.
uh, as soon as I was able to stand, I wasn't even. I was still taking chemo, but I was able to walk finally because I went about 8 months. I'm using a walker to go piss. Sitting in a
Yeah.
chair in the shower. I mean, it was horrible. It was horrible.
Yeah.
But when
Yeah.
I finally got the strength to stand, you know, I said, well, I thought to myself, well, okay, what could I possibly do? Why did I get better? What could I do to make a difference? And I was living in Pennsylvania at the time, and let's be honest, other than New York or California, Pennsylvania nursing homes were more or less ground zero for the pandemic. That
Mm,
those are the
mhm.
most hard hit places. So I went to work at a nursing home. I got on Google Maps and I found the closest uh, apartment I could afford to a nursing home, and I started walking 2 miles to work, 2 miles back to work at a nursing home. It was a trying experience, let me tell you, because I have no medical training or nothing like that, and there it'd be me in a room with 25 dementia patients by myself, trying to, I feel like I was juggling plates sometimes to
Mhm.
keep them all happy and falling down and keep them cleaned up and all that. And, that's what I was doing. I did that for a year. And it's really strange when there wasn't a vaccine, we were heroes. But when there was a vaccine and we wouldn't take it, we were criminals
Yeah.
you know. So and to be honest, I was okay with not wrestling at the time. I
Yeah.
was fine with not wrestling, and I wrestled for 20 some years. Never touched a damn weight. Never,
Hmm.
never touched a weight. But when I was working at the nursing home, that's when I started lifting weights because some of these people you got
Wow.
to move them from place to place.
Yeah.
They don't know what the fuck's going on. So I started lifting weights you know, to I just wanted to be strong enough to do whatever God needed me to do that day,
Yeah.
which don't know what's going to be. And
Right.
then and there were other people that didn't get the shot too, but I was only making $11 an hour, so they tried to make an example out of the people that weren't getting paid very much and could be replaced.
Hmm.
And then the worst thing to do is to tell me personally I have to do something
Yeah.
because whatever it is, I fucking for sure ain't gonna do it. If you tell me I
Yeah.
have to do it, I ain't gonna fucking do it, no matter
Yeah.
what it is. No matter what it is.
Right.
Don't cut your nose off. Well, fuck you. I'll say, don't tell me not to do something. So then all of a sudden, when I left nursing home, now all of a sudden my schedule's a lot different.
Yeah.
And that's when I really started to plant the seeds. Well, you know what? Fuck it. I'll try this. I'll see what's left. See if I'm really in good shape. See what I can do. See if there's anything left out there for me to do. Any
Yeah.
more stories, any more trips, and here we are. I got some
Yeah.
stuff coming up. Uh, July 8th. July 8th and 9th. I'm going to another deathmatch tournament.
Okay.
This one's in Indianapolis.
Mm-hmm.
I made it to the second round out in XPW, which
Yeah.
it's not the best outcome, but for my situation, I look at it as a tremendous victory.
Yeah.
Overcoming when I come, at least getting to the fucking second round, and
Yeah.
with a busted up broken ankle where I couldn't stand up
Yeah.
halfway through the first round match. But I got that. So this is for AWR in Indianapolis. That's July
Okay.
8th and 9th. That's my next thing coming up. And
Cool.
then the first week of August, going back to the gathering, reunited the greatest JCW tag team champions of all time, myself and Madman Pondo.
Oh
We're going to
wow.
be at the gathering one more time. Well, it's Friday, August 5th for
Okay.
Bloody Mania, they're calling it.
All
So
right, man.
another deathmatch tournament and back to the gathering. And I remember, 20 some years ago when I first saw a DVD of JCW. I was living in Texas. I was like, that's the crowd I want to perform in front of. And I've been lucky enough to perform in front of those fans for a number of years. And August 5th, I'm going to do it again.
Wow. Oh, thanks for sharing that, Necro. And let me ask you this. I wanted to touch on this really quick. This is a big part of your career, which wasn't well. It involved wrestling, but it was you in a major motion Oscar nominated most winning
Mm-hmm.
most motion picture. Of course, Mickey Rourke and The Wrestler. Um, and you had a talk. You had some lines and everything with Mickey Rourke himself. And how was that whole experience during, and then what was the aftermath like after that became such a monster hit?
Well, the lines you were talking about were not scripted.
Yeah,
The,
right.
the
I knew that when I
Yeah,
watched it.
yeah.
Being in the business, I could kind of, I think that was improv, and
Well, see,
yeah,
they did that. They filmed the match I had with the Ram. They
right.
filmed that over 3 days. Uh, one day in front of a crowd or CW crowd. They did 2 or 3
Okay.
matches, film a segment. 2 or 3 matches, film a segment, and then they had 2 days of just filming in front of bust-in extras. But during the CCW show, some of the matches were taking a while. All these movie people, those are all union jobs. Those guys are getting paid outrageous hourly sums. So the
Right.
producer was getting pretty pissed off that we were standing around not doing nothing. So he said, "Can you guys just sit here and act like you're talking about the match or something?" And I said, "Sure. I've been talking about wrestling for a
Yeah.
long time." So my motivation was Sabu. Uh,
Oh.
how I talk to the Ram in the movie is how I talk to Sabu in real life. So
Ah.
I just pretended he was Sabu and acted like I was having a
Interesting.
conversation with Sabu, and they ended up using all that shit.
Wow. And
That was
and
all
then
ad
and
lib
then
shit.
and then because of that, they used you to wrestle him.
Well, I didn't know this at the time, but the character was written. The character I auditioned for, I didn't know it until I went to the audition. But the character was the hellbilly cannibal, and he was barefooted and had jeans and a big beard, and they had saw me at the writer had saw me at a show in Long Island for Ring of Honor,
Mm-hmm.
and they had no idea they would run into me in real life. I was just a character. So after the audition, they said, "You realize you auditioned for yourself, right?" And he
Ah.
said, "What do you think about using your wrestling name in the movie?"
Yeah.
And I says, "Wait a minute." So it's in the credits roll, it'll say Necro Butcher Dylan Summers. Yes, let's do it. Let's do it. But the
Wow.
character was called the Hellbilly Cannibal, who was based off me, but I didn't know that until I went to the audition. I didn't know who the fuck I was auditioning for, you know, but I was auditioning for myself, and
Yeah.
I'd hate to see the son of a bitch that could play me better than me. Like what the fuck happened to that guy? What happened to his life? What made him that?
The movie ended up calling you Necro Butcher, right?
Yeah, yep. They
Yeah.
asked me if it was okay. Yep. And
Yeah.
all
And
the
that,
other
and that,
all the other wrestlers had fake names.
isn't
Ernest
that
Miller
funny?
was the Ayatollah. Everybody
Yeah.
was different names. Yep.
That's a weird blur of reality and fiction,
Yep.
because you got guys, with the fake name, but then yours is
Yep.
real, which makes the movie more
Yeah.
believable.
Well, like the character was the Hellbilly Cannibal, who was based on me, but I didn't know that.
How did you like the finished product of that movie
Loved it.
overall? Yeah.
Loved it. I didn't think
Yeah.
it was going to be a big deal at all. I didn't think I didn't know these didn't get produced. It was just something I did for a few days.
it
And
was
back to work,
phenomenal.
back on the road.
Yeah, it just felt like, you're in the business, I'm in the business. We know how it works in the back. And I didn't feel like it was doctored up at all. It felt like, whoa, this just looks like a camera that's
Yeah.
really back
Well,
there.
and I had been hanging out with Mickey Rourke for a while anyway. He was going to shows with me, just hanging out. Sometimes he would sit in the corner of the locker room and just tape his wrist up, untape it, tape it up, untape it. He'd do that for like an hour sometimes. Sometimes it's been like an hour lacing his boot up, unlacing it, lacing it up, unlace it. He'd just sit and watch everybody and listen to their conversations and just try to mimic them.
Yeah.
We were going out and having a good time, partying it up, and then when filming started, man, he was all business.
Yeah.
When filming started, I didn't see that guy unless we were filming.
Right.
So we were doing stuff before filming started. We were just hanging out, drinking and stuff. But filming started, man, he was all business.
Wow. What an experience. That's pretty awesome.
It was great. It was great.
Yeah.
I don't know. Just a coincidence. Another bizarre coincidence.
Yeah. Did you get did that spike up your bookings after that movie?
Honestly, not really.
Really?
Well, because I had kids, I tried to stay on the road.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, I think maybe Puerto Rico, it helped me get to Puerto Rico, but I was always trying to stay busy.
Okay.
I need that money coming in. I was doing stuff in Japan. I was doing shoot fighting in Japan for a couple of years just to get extra money before the movie.
So these were all things you were doing prior to the movie.
Yeah, I was staying busy. I was staying as busy as I could, to keep the money coming in.
So that character really was real. It's like, hey,
that was
I'm
me.
Necro Butcher. I'm already working. Yeah.
Yeah. What poor son of a bitch could play me better than me?
That's right. That's right, man. Hey, let me ask you. Okay, so you worked for XPW, the second incarnation at Big Vision 2.0, whatever you want to call it. And then now the new XPW with Rob at the helm once again. You didn't work with Rob Black back a cold day and hell.
Never crossed paths.
No, you have worked with him a little bit now. Your thoughts on Rob Black?
Well, he's very passionate about what he's doing. That's for sure. He has to have some kind of ulcer issues. He has to, just as much as he stresses out about everything. I mean, we'll see. I just hope he doesn't get too burned out on it. Wrestlers are a pain in the ass to deal with, especially today's wrestlers, especially me. So I don't know. We'll see how it goes. I'm optimistic.
Yeah, the mentality is a little different today. You're right, and I think you and I echoed each other's sentiments when we were in the locker room at the Derby room. I think I said something about the kids nowadays, and you're like, they're soft or whatever. And then,
they are.
Well, that's Necro. That's Necro. Yeah. But anyway,
they're just dress up wrestlers. They're just cosplay.
and I just love to see kids that are willing to pay their dues, because it's like almost like that's not the norm anymore.
No.
But it's nice to see when they're willing to, because those are the ones that really want it. Can you share a few before we close out? I want to thank you, but really quick, Necro, and then I'll let you, whatever shout outs or plugs.
I'm done. I'm done.
Oh,
I got
yeah,
them
that's
both
right.
in. I got them both in. I'm good.
You got them both in. That's right. Thank you for that. And can
Before
you
you
share
ask
this?
me, I got them done before you asked me.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Now, in case you
Uh,
didn't ask me, I already had them in.
all
As a
right. There
veteran
we
move.
go, man.
Veteran move.
Can you share? Because again, man, I know you guys only met once in the ring, but it was so monumental, it was so memorable, and it was so iconic. And the guy, unfortunately, is not with us anymore. Any memories of the late great Supreme?
Well, his legacy still lives on. Look at so many lives that he touched. Look at what a positive influence he had on not just fans but wrestlers. His influence is not going away anytime soon, as it shouldn't. You know,
Yeah.
it's he's still there. His spirit and his influence will be there long after me and you are gone, probably.
Yeah. Yeah.
The
Yeah.
fans are always going to remember him. The wrestlers are always going to remember him.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that. And then one last question, Necro, before we leave on this edition of Extreme Memories. Once again, thank you, fans, all you guys for joining us, supporting us. Again, Extreme Memories on the 15th and 30th of every month. Like, share, comment, and subscribe to the Wrestling Chatter YouTube channel. Thank you so much. Throw a comment down here. Anything that we talked about, Necro and myself, those specifics, dates in Japan, whatever that you may know of, please drop your comments. But last question, Necro Butcher, the legendary Necro Butcher, knowing what you've known about XPW back in the day, competing in it in the second incarnation, and now back in the third incarnation, what in your mind and in the wrestling world will be the legacy of XPW?
I don't think that's for guys like me and you to decide. We can try to shape it how we want, but I mean it'll kind of always be like the West Coast ECW.
Yeah.
That's not a downgrade either company,
Right.
but they were just so far apart. They didn't really mix too much till they didn't really mix it the rosters too much till both of them were on the way out.
Mm-hmm.
It's always and what might have been. What
Yeah.
might have been with an ECW or an XPW. What might have been. How many, like me and Supreme, how many other iconic matchups might have you gotten had
Yeah.
both of those companies stuck around? But
Mm.
that's how the world is. Though you can't never just got to take it as it comes.
That's that. I asked this question to everybody on the show at the end that I've never thought of before and that I never heard before. And that's very interesting. Had ECW stuck around, had XPW stuck around, you build those two rosters that are only exclusive to those given leagues. You build those, and then boom, you have a super show, kind of like when Hogan and Flair first got together or whatever. That never thought outside the box on that one, really. And I don't think I've never had anybody answer it that way on this show. So very interesting, man. No, that's cool. That's a cool thought. That's like a fantasy league type thing going on there.
Maybe someday with holograms they'll do it.
Yeah, right. And AI will if XPW and ECW never folded, they'll show us how it would have been with AI.
Hey, you better believe every day we get closer and closer to AI wrestling.
Yeah, no, it's true.
WWE would love to have not have real wrestlers to deal with. They can just have a bunch of computer programs. They're all going to do what they want. They're never going to get in trouble. They're never. They're just going to do what they're told. Say what they're going to.
You're giving Mark Zuckerberg and the metaverse too many good
it's
ideas.
Coming. It's coming. No. Don't you worry. It's coming. It's coming.
Yeah, I know. Well, hey, Necro, while we have real human beings on here, thank you very much. Thank you very much. And folks, we are real. We are not holograms.
No, not yet. Not yet.
Yeah, I promise. Well, Necro, hey, like you said, this is your first time doing like a stream type thing. So, hey, on behalf of myself, my producer, and all our fans, I personally thank you for doing this interview.
It was easy. Thanks for taking it easy on the old man.
Well, you made it easy and you made it very entertaining, very fun, and it's good catching up with you again, my friend.
Okie dokie. Thanks, buddy.
All right. Thank you. For Necro Butcher, Kris Kloss saying so long, and we'll see you next time on Xtreme Memories. So long, everybody.
Thank you for watching Xtreme Memories, hosted by Kris Kloss. He's dropping new episodes every month on the 15th and 30th. You can be the first to tune in by subscribing to the Wrestling Chatter channel right here on YouTube. See you next time.